So we've had you on other shows to discuss what fan bases look like. And of course, the Big Ten has targeted and now grabbed the number 2 television market in the country. So that's the crude metric of, okay, it's the second largest group of people watching television. However, how much of that is relevant? How much of it is real? How large is the fan base? How engaged are they? And I know, Tony, that you haven't put this down to a T and nobody truly knows, but what is your take based on all of your research on that LA TV market that's number 2 in the country? How much of it truly can benefit the Big Ten through USC and UCLA?
A lot of it. When we looked at, and I'd have to actually pull the exact numbers up, but USC, let's see here what the fan bases were ranked nationally. Okay, we had USC at number, what's that number? It was like number 13 nationally, UCLA at 28. And this is just with football.
Yep.
You know, both of those are really high. The thing about LA is it's a lot like New York in that you have people from everywhere. And so those people cheer for teams, from everywhere. And you have a lot of Big Ten people that live in Los Angeles. And so having them play the teams that USC and UCLA, and to folks, the guys that are watching that aren't from California, USC and UCLA run that town as far as fan bases go. And quite honestly, Berkeley and Stanford don't have a lot of fans anyway. And so like USC and UCLA are the teams that people are watching on TV. One year, actually, best job I ever had, which was a volunteer thing. I was the host of the other team's cheerleaders during the games. And which was a lot of fun. Hang out, they got a little sandwich buffet at halftime. They got to all take pictures and play with Traveler the horse and all that. And one of the things that I laughed about, for example, the San Diego State, like the guy cheerleaders from San Diego State, who were all from like Orange County and North County, San Diego, were so excited to be at the Coliseum because they were all USC fans. And so, when you're in Southern California, you go to UCSB, you go to wherever. Our most obnoxious fans in the Coliseum are from like Cal State Northridge. I really get annoyed because they're like screaming at Stanford, like, you suck. And it's like, dude, you didn't even go to USC. You went to Northridge and you're going to scream at Stanford. Like, come on. No, but it's true. Like it's a lot like, like in Georgia, I don't know, the people that go to Emory probably all cheer for UGA. Like it's just, those are the teams. And so for the Big Ten being in there, having those teams, UCLA, we hate them. They have great merchandising, right? They are the most applied to school in the country. They add enormous value. Our school as well. And so, you get that stuff. And for that to be a Big Ten school, I love, if you guys have not seen the Big Ten networks, it's on YouTube, the Big Ten networks, like broadcast of the announcement. I mean, these guys, and these are, real good, like sportscasters in the Big Ten network, better than the Pac-12 network. Although we love Yogi is the best. No one's as good as Yogi. They were just in glee saying like the Rose Bowl's a Big Ten venue. The Coliseum's a Big Ten venue. Pauley Pavilion's a Big Ten venue. Fatal Field is a Big Ten venue. It was like every new thing they put up, and they were like, oh, I mean, USC has more baseball championships, I think, than the whole Big Ten added together, I'm sure. At least certainly in the post-war era. That kind of, it was like every new stat they were just in glee over. And I think, I think that just kind of, a lot of it says it all. And having that market, having those people go out there, just like I mentioned with USC fundraising in New York, they all want to fundraise in LA. Secret, they all want to fundraise in San Francisco too, which is why I think we might see more. That's going to become a destination for them. I think that the LA market is a whole right now. The reason I think San Diego State will end up in maybe not today, right? Maybe they don't want to seem like they're putting the Band-Aid on like today. But I think San Diego State's going to end up there because I think Washington and Stanford and Cal and Arizona State and Arizona, who all have these huge alumni bases in Southern California, need to have games in Southern California. Like, I would not be surprised if we start to see things like Oregon versus Arizona at SoFi Stadium. so that there is a game in California for their alumni and their fans and all their prospective students. I mean, half those kids, look, you go to the ASU campus and look how many California plates there are. Those kids are all from Orange County. They're all from San Diego County. They're all from LA County. And a lot of them are kids that didn't get into UCLA or our favorite institution. And so like they want to have presence there. That's how they recruit their students and their faculty and their donors and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a big hole for the Pac-10. And I think that the Big Ten is just you can watch it on their faces. Like they're just delighting. Like literally every new screen that would come up, they'd be like revering John Wooden, Big Ten coach. And I'll tell you one big thing. And I think this is the thing that said to me more than anything, part of why this was the big move. You know how many Heisman trophies the Big Ten Network says USC has? 7. Not 6. So, yeah, we got a little asterisk. That's fine. But they made it clear there were 7. And I mean, I think that's the kind of attitude that shows why we made the move.
All right, Tony, I got to hit you with a couple more questions. One, you mentioned earlier in the show that Nebraska and Minnesota might play Big Ten baseball games in Los Angeles, and now you dropped the idea of Arizona and Stanford playing or Oregon and Stanford playing in SoFi Stadium. So are we seeing a scheduling revolution? Like, do you think like this kind of scheduling idea is going to take root in the not too distant future?
Well, the baseball thing, I think they were just sort of like, I think that was somebody just frustrated with snow more than anything.
But then this football example,
yeah,
I mean,
the football thing would not surprise me, right? Because you want to have games where your alumni are. So, for example, one of the things about USC, and Matt knows this, I'm not talking to you guys, I'm talking to the fans out there. USC they call them the weekend. It started the Weekenders, of course, the Bay Area one that we always do. I think we'll still have those. Will be 2 of our. I think our non-conference games are going to be basically 3 schools. But one of the things that USC has always done is they started to have Weekenders wherever we go. And so, for example, we don't like to play games in places that our fans don't want to go. We want to have games where we bring donors and executives and alumni and all that together. So, for example, when we played Virginia Tech, we did it in D.C. When we played Syracuse, we did it in New York City. When we played Virginia, it's not that far a drive. Base camp was at the Omni Shoreham Hotel in D.C. So I think you're going to see USC will continue that. Of course, when we're going to Big Ten schools, you go to the Big Ten schools, but it'll continue to be a big deal. But I think that losing Southern California, though, the rest of the Pac-10 will need to have presences in the LA market, and I think they will want to have games against us. They're a little testy about it now, but I'll tell you, they're not nearly as testy as the 1950s. UCLA was so mad at the Northwest schools, they put out things that sounded like the State Department talking about North Korea. Literally, USC announced that they were severing athletic relations with the Pacific Northwest. Like they were withdrawing their ambassador and closing the UCLA embassy in Wazoo. No, literally, I have the headlines. It was
I don't doubt it.
Wilbur Johns announced like UCLA was severing athletic relations with everyone except Washington.
Okay, and I got to hit you with this last question. You mentioned earlier that USC should want a Rutgers road game as much as possible, so that you're always getting in New York. What's the home game with a Big Ten school that USC should want every year? Ohio State, Michigan? Which one would it be most advantageous for USC to have in LA as much as possible?
Nebraska, because they'll all buy tickets. And if I'm a student, I might scout my Nebraska ticket and go to Palm Springs for the weekend. That's the wrong answer. But it's true. those Nebraska tickets, though. I mean, I love Nebraska. I mean, I remember when Nebraska came to the Coliseum, right? Like they brought all their fans. It was awesome. I mean, I think you want to have those Michigan-Ohio State games. I also think you want to save those Michigan-Ohio State games a little bit for the league championship.
Yeah.
We might be the Big Ten West, however that works. Now, I'm a proponent because 46 times we've now played the Big Ten championship game on January 1st at 2 p.m. Pacific in the city of Pasadena. So I've actually advocated, and I think we may go to this in this new playoff model, something more to that. I mean, the Big Ten should have a 4-game playoff at least.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It should just be
conference quarterfinals, semifinals, title game. Yes,
I think so. And
yes,
and I love the like the scheduling they did in the
quarterfinals.
Oh, why not?
If we get to 20 team conferences, absolutely. I think
Matt,
right now under 16 teams, you should definitely have conference semifinals.
I agree with you 100%.
Yep.
And
TV friendly, big bucks.
How fun would those be?
Yep.
And how fun would it be if the Big Ten championship, because they're, whose alumni, by the way, run the Tournament of Roses committee? I think they're in red and baby blue. And so, that seems to me like the perfect place for the Big Ten championship to be. And if you guys have ever read Matt Brown's book, What If, which is a phenomenal book, he talks about the airplane conference, which we tried to put together in the 50s. It failed. We ended up hiring the guy who planned it as the first Pac-10 commissioner. But one of the things that he suggested is because of weird politics of the 50s, that had that actually gone through, that's probably what the Rose Bowl would have become, was the first championship game of the airplane conference. It would have been, Notre Dame or Pitt or Syracuse or whoever against USC, UCLA, Stanford, or Cal. And so I would not surprise me if that was just a way that things just worked out really well. And I mean, do the same thing there. Have the Big 12 champion in the Pac or in the SEC champion meet in the Sugar Bowl, and then the winner plays in some big NFL stadium somewhere.
Yep.
That's what I would
agree.
do.
Man,
if
Tony,
we go
you're
to
so good.
quarterfinals,
I'm really so glad to have met you and had this conversation with you.
You
You're
too.
awesome.
We'll have to do it again sometime with fewer boring charts.
Oh, they're great charts. But man,
if we go to
rock.
quarterfinals,
great work.
If we go to quarterfinals and even possibly semifinals, there has to be a flex schedule in the Big Ten. There would have to be a flex schedule for everybody else.
Sure.
I love flex schedule. Now, the SEC won't like quarterfinals because the SEC doesn't like to accept that SEC teams, believe it or not, sometimes they can lose. And that they do not like to admit that is a possibility. But there's one team that throughout history, one bad afternoon in Dallas aside, there's one team that throughout history has smashed the SEC regularly, and it drives them nuts because they're not impressed by them. And that is the Trojans. Because I remember when we played Auburn, and most of our student section thought it was probably somewhere up by Stockton, maybe near Fresno. Was it part of the Cal State system? They weren't really sure. They didn't care. They were like, do you guys want to go to the Auburn game? People were like, it's in Alabama. And they were like, why are we playing there? I thought it was in Stockton. Oh, well, okay, never mind. You never thought twice about it. And that is, by the way, what drives the SEC crazy about USC is that we represent everything, like you mentioned, Mark, culturally. We represent everything culturally that they cannot stand, and we beat the snot out of them historically. And we do. By the way, the guys, that is backed up by data. You can at me on Twitter all you want in anger, but like that is what one afternoon in Dallas aside, when Lane Kiffin and Sark got their revenge, we've always done that.
And, Tony, you know this as well as I do. If only we had a 4-team playoff during the Pete Carroll era, man, we would have gone up against Urban Meyer and all those guys, and we would have kicked their butt.
That we would have, because here's the thing: USC historically, like, we will lose in Corvallis on September 17th, but we'll beat you in the bowl game. Corvallis. That I always tell everyone, if you really want to scare a USC person, like to the bone, just chill them and just make their world cold. Just say, you're in Corvallis. It's Friday night and it's raining.
Exactly.
And USC,
that's the biggest game of this season. That's the biggest game of this season. If USC wins that, USC is set. And if USC loses that, then we could see some problems.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I respect the Beavs. I mean, Pat
Yes,
Shine
they're a thorn in our sides.
Yeah, and Pat Shine at Washington State runs a phenomenal athletic department. Like, I want those schools to succeed, and that's why I want that conference to succeed. I think they will.